Good afternoon. My name is Philip Pandy. This is week 2 for our discussion board, and I went and I'm going to utilize the example, but I did reach out to a couple people to go ahead and get some follow-up information in regards to the 504 and the IEP. Basic clarification, just so that we have it clear. 504 is general, and the IEP is the actual report that is done. So the IEP is the one that the teacher receives that shows if the child is able to write full sentences, how much time you have their concentration for reading and writing, and able to review. The IEP is put together by the school psychiatrist, the counselor, the teacher, the SPED, and they come together with the parents and the student to go ahead and create a plan to hopefully help make the student successful. So that's what I learned. So the IEP portion is literally just going down the full expectations of the day for the student, for times of studying and what's not being done, assistance through the special ed department, and what needs may be, as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, in regards to time needed to complete an assignment, time needed to take a test, time needed for writing, ultimately the time span of the student. Difficulties experienced in general education. So the difficulties fall into a teacher is simply to make sure that they are following the plans of the SPED, or not the SPED, of the IEP. Making sure that's how it was explained to me was ultimately the guide of how a teacher can teach a student with that does have an IEP, which is it gives you a heads up in regards to the time limits for testing, even for lecturing, notes, things such as that. So that I loved hearing that from an actual teacher, kind of now put it into sense. The IEP is actually there to your guideline to help with that student. The next step was was to consider, so if I was a teacher and I did see some signs, I would then go ahead and go to this, create a school, the SST, school studies relations teacher, and I got this information, just so you know, from Roland Unified, out in Roland Heights, La Puente area. So that way the terminology, if it is different at your school. So the SST, so you would normally go to the SST, and then the SST would then create a meeting, and then they would then observe the student to see if they observed the same thing that the teacher observed, in regards to qualifying for, that would be the 504, and then the 504 would then lead into the IEP, which is the report at the end, which shows how the student learns and their cognitive level. Not to get it twisted. The 504, when we learned through the testing from the week before, in the first web it talked about it being like a general coverage. The 504 is what starts the services. The IEP is the actual report in which how we're going to help the student, and the records of the student. That's why it's very thorough. And what did you learn to disagree? So it's not a matter of what we disagree with about the IEP. If you are the teacher in the IEP, you can go ahead and make a recommendation based on the video. If you are not in that, it's going to be what was said and discussed with the parents and the people writing the IEP at that point in time. You as a teacher will then go ahead and you will follow that. You will follow the IEP as it was written for you, and you adapt it to the student. And then that way, if you're coming back at the end of the semester, where we are calculating not calculating, but assessing the progress or the lack of progress of the student, then you can go ahead and speak on what you've noticed in your class. And that, my team, is what I learned for week 2. I hope everyone's doing well. Have a wonderful week. Look forward to seeing your videos. Thanks for your time.